because people don't get started, right? You got people who
say, I don't got the money to get a video shoot. I don't got the money to get a photo shoot.
And they try to do it the highest quality, look the coolest, and then it's still gonna not look all that great to you after a year from now anyway. And you're spending time being that basketball player who gets the headbands, the new shoes, the socks.
You can't play.
And you can't play, right? Like, don't be that guy.
So basically what you're saying is do what you can with what you have at the moment.
That's all you can do.
Most definitely.
Yeah, that's all you can do. As long as you keep doing what you can with what you got from where you are, eventually you're going to be successful. Because all it is doing that same thing over and over again. I did what I can today with what I got. Yet tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing. The next day I'm going to do the same thing. And you're going to level up slowly but surely.
Most definitely. So starting out, what platform would you tell people to use? Would you say do TikTok ads or do Instagram ads or do influencer marketing? What exactly would you tell an artist starting out?
I like ads on Instagram out of the ad platforms, then TikTok. But those two are the two that I would say do ads on to start out. And then those are also the two I would say when it comes to building your image content, those are the two to focus on still. YouTube is trying to get themselves in the space with shorts. They aren't quite there yet. Maybe a culture develops, but that's the thing. It's the same reason that Instagram has reels, and reels are going viral. There's some artists that are going viral on Instagram, but still you see the streaming impact to be way greater on TikTok because of culture. TikTok built itself on a culture where people are looking for new music, or when they hear new music, they easily click over to see what it is. I'm gonna go stream it. That's a cultural thing. Instagram, you're in a completely different mentality, right? So they have their pros and cons, but both are valuable. On Instagram, their pro over TikTok is you get to communicate your brand in more ways. It's more comfortable the way we consume. Like, yeah, they got different ways of dropping content on TikTok today, but people aren't really looking at your profile like that on TikTok. So I'm just gonna see the latest video on my feed that you dropped, right? And on Instagram, people are consuming the stories, right? The DMs are still a thing. People really don't DM on TikTok like that still. At one point, you had to be following each other. It was something weird that you had to do to even DM on TikTok. And then like the pictures on Instagram. So it allows you to communicate yourself in way more ways. And also people take you more seriously still based on your Instagram following versus your TikTok following. So I try to do both of them in tandem, especially since on Reels, that's going to be the same content that goes on TikTok for the most part anyway.
Yeah, so you can just kind of siphon that through TikTok basically.
Yeah, you do both, pretty much the same thing in that category. And then on Instagram, you add the extra going live. You can go live on TikTok too. So let me take that back. Like I know people making multiple thousands just going live on TikTok. But that's a whole other game. Way more money on going live on TikTok than Instagram. But like still story feed, drop expressing your brand as a whole, giving that feel, the highlights that you can do on Instagram. It's way better to brand yourself on Instagram.
Most definitely. So let me ask you this. Once you have a piece of content that's going up, how long should you run that piece of content? So say you got a piece of content for an ad that's going up. How long should you run that ad?
How much money do you have? Yeah. That's really what it's about. If it's working, run it as long as you can. So here's the difference. Because the rule in marketing is if it works, keep that thing going. The difference is, in a lot of marketing fields, something working is tying directly back to making money. I got this Shopify store, and I'm running this ad, or I'm running this webinar funnel, and I'm making money, and boy, this thing is working. So you're never gonna stop because it's always making money. The problem in music is, again, we're not making money up front. And if you go too hard, or I want to sell like early, you're really just running a glorified, e-commerce operation, and probably could make more money running a real e-commerce operation versus attaching it to art because you're not really building a fan base. So it's just like catch-22. in music, a lot of times working just looks like I'm getting a lot of followers or I'm getting a good stream amount for a lower amount than what I typically see. And because you're not gonna make money, or let's say a full return on your investment immediately, in most cases, then you need to run it as long as you can based on the amount of money you have.
Most definitely. So once you build up your brand, what are some good ways artists can make money? Is it like selling merch, or is it selling, your handwritten raps, or what have you seen some ways that, artists can make money the easiest?
So merch is typical.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite, this is like to me, valuable sauce, are things like what you said, some kind of weird handwritten thing, a poster.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what's cool about a poster? You don't have to have a bunch of different SKUs.
Mm-hmm.
If people don't know what a SKU is, like when I drop
the number on it.
I'm saying like if I drop a shirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to have at least 3 SKUs, typically small, medium, large.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right? And then you want to serve more of your fan base, it might be extra large and XXL, right? You ever wonder why people don't have more of these sizes a lot of times? It's like, man, there's a minimum amount that I got to purchase in a different size. And if I'm not going to sell out all of them, it's not worth providing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a poster, it's going to be the same size, no matter who it's going to, which is cheaper on you, and you get a bigger margin, even though it might not look as cool as a shirt or something for some reason. So like little things like that, I mean, that becomes when you're really like deep into like the business and optimizing on margins and stuff like that. But people can do that at any time. People just don't think to do it. They go to what they see.
What about like Patreons for like new songs and stuff like that? So say you post a snippet on your page, right? And everybody wants the song. And you say like, okay, well, you can get the song at an earlier time if you subscribe to the Patreon. Have you seen something like that work as well?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
You don't think the brand is strong enough yet, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's how many artists are you in a private group for? That's just the reality.
But I think you don't think it's because they don't really promote private groups though, or like a lot of artists don't have private groups.
A lot of artists don't have private groups.
Because I'm in like private groups for health people. I'm in private groups for, other type of people.
Yeah.
Because they promote that.
Yeah.
So.
The best private groups are not just music driven.
Mm.
Because people don't want to consume that way. I have projects early that I love. And I'll be like, dude, this track is hard. And I'll listen to it maybe a couple times. And then.
You want the experience.
I just got to wait.
Yeah.
Till it comes out on Spotify. I just went through that with a project. I heard this artist project back in September because I'm working the project. And I listened to it a couple times, but all right, it's not on Spotify where I can listen to the rest of my music. So I'm not going to consume it like that. You know what I mean?
It's like waiting for it to come out in theaters.
Yes, yeah. But it's just another barrier keeping me, it's like from being able to listen how I want to listen.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Like, as someone who, I was like, I love this, but I'm not gonna really listen till it's out. Now, why people don't do private groups, I think there's just so many different barriers people don't consider. There's a lot of artists who have the idea like, why don't I start my own social media network? Private group is another version of that.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't I start my own social media? But then people don't realize how hard it is to start social media companies. There's a reason that there's so few of them, and getting people to gather, and then let alone doing it profitably is a whole nother game. And I'm not saying private groups are bad. I'm not saying artists shouldn't do private groups, but I think people look at it as an easy way out because the theory of subscriptions works.
Mm-hmm.
But what you'll find, like on the entrepreneurial journey, people will always start off just doing some basic math. And that basic math is so promising. It's like, dang, I just sold a t-shirt for $10. I sold 10 of these, I have 100. Dang, if I sold 100 of these, I have 1,000. Bro, all we gotta do is sell 1,000 shirts, and we'll have $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go on that journey, and then they might sell 50 shirts. Because it's way harder to sell $100,000. So a lot of times, subscriptions get sold on the basic math, the idea. What if X amount of people were paying you X amount of dollars every single month?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh man, there it is. And it's not that simple. And that's why I try to get people to understand it's way more complex to run a truly successful subscription program. And I'm not saying it can't be done as an artist.
I'm gonna try just because you know what I'm saying, just because you said
it. I want you to try and then see all the other issues that it comes with it to do it right. And then help artists understand how to do it right.
So are you saying like not even on Patreon? You mean like your own website, like Brandman Network?
It could be Patreon. It could be a solo website. However you want to run your private group. I don't think people should try to make it about money. And this is the reason I say what I'm talking about against subscriptions. Like I love the idea of starting like a private group or an email list, especially email and text. Private groups are still not as valuable as email and text for artists because one of private groups takes more work, and most artists don't even want to do the work for social media, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't even mean that in a bad way.
It's gonna take like a Kanye type.
It is legitimately more work, right? So why are you putting more work on yourself? And the best way to do it is not to do a subscription. It's to have your people over there and keep them engaged. But then that's where we go back to free theory. Just because something is free doesn't mean that everybody will be active at all times. And then there's a lot of frustrations with how do I keep that activity up? How do I keep this place valuable? And you have to create an entire operation and set of habits and systems to make sure that thing stays valuable. That's for free. Payment, now people are going to scrutinize even more. In the same way, a lot of people don't want to have HBO, Netflix, Paramount, Hulu, and every single app under the sea. I got a bunch of free apps on my TV, like a little smart TV, and I don't go into all the different apps. It's like, because I don't want to have to make a decision or go find out what's new over there. Like, most people just don't want another thing. I know people who don't have TikTok or don't have Instagram. They're like, I'll just wait for it to get from one to the other. Like, if it matters, it matters. Because people are already, as much as you are overwhelmed with all the tools and all the things you have to do for your business, there's a lot of people who are overwhelmed from an entertainment base. So I just like to make sure people understand, you want to get into that game, it's a whole nother business and operation. Don't just think it's this simple, oh, I can start this. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is I don't believe an artist should do that on the way up.
Okay.
There might be a outlier or two, but we can't look at these special cases. We gotta look at, for most artists, what's going to work when we give like advice on a general platform. So most artists, just think about it like this. You barely have visibility on social media. And then you have this private space with even less visibility. You just brought 10 people into this space. You know how hard it is to keep these 10 people entertained, and now it's not going to feel like it's worth your time. And every unit of effort that you're putting out in this space is effort that you should be putting out in a public forum to grow and get more people to know you. Mm-hmm. All right? And if you have limited time and resources, you need to put it where it's going to have the biggest impact for you over time, and that's in a public forum. If you got a certain level of audience, certain level of strong fan base, sure, give it a go. Like, there's still a lot of issues, and it's a difficult thing to pull off and do consistently, which is why you don't really hear too many artists like really talk about that and shine a light on it consistently. However, if you have a legitimate fan base, you will get people to pay. And even if you ran it for a year, at least you did it. You probably made some money, you know. But it's a reason that there's not, you don't hear anybody like, yeah, I've been running this for 5-10 years, especially artists who have other options. You know what I'm saying? Because it is a very difficult model. And that's not to scare people away. That's just to let people know the reality of what, bringing people into it. People get afraid of getting charged every month. Like, I gotta check on, I got a lot of people even on the artist stuff. Like, selling a course, it's supposed to help your career. And they're like, I don't want to pay for something. Another, on automatic, it's just going to come out my account next month. I don't know if I'm going to have the money or whatever. Or you trying to trick me into buying something. And then there's just the mentality of the expectation that comes with, if I'm paying you consistently, you need to continue to entertain me. You need to keep dropping content in this space. So it's just there can be a special relationship that you might develop with your artists. Some artists have the ability to make it feel like it's about supporting a greater movement and things like that, which I do advise. If you want to start something like that, don't just make it about your music.
Make it have some utility.
You need it. Yeah, it needs to stand for something greater, or have some level of interaction beyond just, hey, y'all here for me. The value is if you can make the community become the value to each other, so you don't have to be there. I just introduced my group of friends. You know what I mean? And shit, man, I was out of town. Y'all hung out without me. That's kind of what you want, though, to happen in reality if you start a community as an artist. But getting to that point, it's, like I said, it's not for the faint of heart, but it is worth it if you can pull it off.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Is the Grammys done?
That's a funny question.
Meaning, like, the reason why I ask that is because do you still watch the Grammys? Do, like, you know what I'm saying, other people out of culture still, like, do we still value the Grammys?
I haven't watched an award show really in a long time. And for me, it's always going to be about great performances. If I do watch something, because I do value like live shows and like live performers. But the Grammys isn't going to be done regardless of people watching or not. Because every industry has an award of what it looks like to be at the peak. Advertising, you know what I mean? Customer service, like awards within certain industries. Like everybody has some version of that. That's still going to be there, especially as an artist. People are going to want some level of acclaim. You have to remember that the conflict and tension between the Grammys is really comes down to the fact that you got this show that's about the peers, the actual artists. But then you also wanted to sell it to people that it's actually not for, which is the public. The Grammys aren't really for the public. It's really for like a marketing exec and artist, for us as an industry to say, oh yeah, you were great, you killed it this year, based on what we know how this thing really runs. Yet we want to sell it to people who actually don't know how this thing really runs, and they're judging it like, why did this person win? And I'm like, nah, you don't know what it looked like and how it took to pull this thing off, or you don't even understand the difference about that. That's the positive side of the Grammys, right? On the purist, there's just an issue with that in general. Then you got entertainment value, who's gonna watch it, most of the time it's boring. Then you got the legitimate politics that does come into play, that does lead to people who are not winning. So there's like the bad side. This isn't me defending the Grammys, but this is just me saying, because people are always going to one acknowledgement to say they were one of the best in their industry. Two, there's actual financial benefit from winning a Grammy. I can now say Grammy Award winning, and you got to pay me more money, corporation. So people want that because they get more like, oh, I want an Oscar, I want an Emmy. Like those actually have legitimate financial impact. Yesterday's price is not today's price is a real thing when somebody wins that. Even saying Grammy nominated, because I might not listen to your music, but oh, you Grammy nominated, you're important to somebody. Right? So they're not going to get rid of that. From a fan standpoint, I think it already is done. And we're just looking at numbers and like how much the public really cares about that stuff from a fan standpoint. When it comes to doing business and the purpose of still wanting to be acknowledged by your peers, I don't think that's ever gonna go away.